Welcome to the Executive Podcast, the show where we talk to individuals behind the scenes of successful businesses who will provide us with valuable insights, tips, and unique perspectives which have fueled both their successes and challenges. I'm Darryl Patterson, and in this special episode of the Executive Podcast, we supported Parklands Carecast with their episode finale, an audience with Ron Taylor, the Managing Director of Parklands Care Home. With Parklands operating for 30 years and establishing 11 care homes, the company offers a wide range of care needs for their residents across Highlands and Moray. Throughout the interview, which also features a recent guest of the Executive Podcast, Eleanor Bradford, Ron speaks about his passion, which stems from his own experience caring for his grandfather, which instigated Parklands' core values and to deliver the highest standards in their tailored and individual care needs for residents.
Welcome to Johnsons of Elgin. They're our hosts for the latest and the last in our series of conversations with business leaders around Moray. There will be an opportunity for you all to ask questions at the end. We always find that questions really heat up as we're starting to run out of time. So don't leave your question till the last minute. Please do get the questions going early. My guest today has been a business leader in the North East for 3 decades. He didn't intend to go into the sector that he's in, but nevertheless, he's won Business of the Year and has also been named Business Leader of the Year. So please welcome Parklands Care Homes Managing Director, Ron Taylor. So I mentioned it slightly in my introduction there, but you didn't mean to get into the care home sector. How did that come about?
It came about probably because, as you know, it's on our website, I was the principal carer for my grandfather, and that experience changed me profoundly. And I think it was during those precious moments together I thought to myself, you know, I could do this on a long-term basis, although I didn't know how. I mean, I didn't have a health background, etc. I found myself doing things as a 21-year-old I never thought I would do. As it came around, I was fortunate to get into a position where I knew where the pockets of money were to build a care home, because it was also a very expensive business to start, and then we took it from there. So it's one of these things in life. It just happened. It just things. You know, I often think that thoughts become things, and all of a sudden, well, here I am, 30 years later. Who would have thought?
Do you think from all that experience, I'm imagining as a 21-year-old it was an eye-opener, and I imagine that, you know, all the way through your career there's been frustrations. Do you think that as a society we are ready to get old?
Well, that's funny. You know, way back in the years gone by, Paul McCartney said, "Will you still lead me? Will you still love me when I'm 64?" And here we are. You know, the average age of the residents in our homes, about 90. So, you know, yes, we are. I think we are an ageing society. We are ageing. But at the same time, I think, you know, we as a society are changing and becoming more aware as ageism in the marketplace. People, you know, you don't have to retire at 65. I'm 65 now, and there's no way I'm going to retire yet. So it's just the way that we think about ageing is changing quite dramatically.
And do you think, as a society, we're good at managing that?
I'd be good at managing it? No, I don't think so. You know, the funny thing is my own mother, who's just sort of 95, is coming to one of her own care homes, and she doesn't want to be there. She thinks it's full of old people. But at that age, the body is breaking down, and she needs help, and that's exactly what we want to do. I discovered once, I remember when I was caring for my grandfather, I came to the conclusion that everybody's lucky enough to be young, but not everybody gets the chance to be old, if you know what I mean. So it was an opportunity to look after people who are not ill, but old and in need of help.
The sector that you're in is a sector that is notoriously underfunded.
Yeah.
I think people here, you know, who are from the business community, would be really interested in how you've managed that.
It's not been easy, and sometimes with a wing and a prayer, more prayer than a wing sometimes. But But, you know, I'm delighted to say we have a fantastic team of people. And we use the expression, people make Parklands, and it's very true. These people who work with us, and many of them have been working for years and years and years, they come with compassion, empathy, and total dedication to what they do. And that's the key. And they make me look good. So it's all about the people, it's about the core staff. And Moray, I'm delighted to say we employ just over 450 people. Many of them have been with us since the beginning. And it's a calling, you know, not many people can do it, but those who can do it very well. And I often like to think that it's, you know, we offer career progression as well. So a lot of the people who have been with us since day one have also now moved up the ranks to become manager. And I think 6 of our managers started with us years and years ago. Many of them don't have a health background, they're not nurses, but they're very good on the EQ rather than the IQ. We talked about this earlier. And we employ most of our staff on emotional intelligence rather than IQ. So often we get people from, you know, Moray College waving an SVQ level 3 at us to say, I can do the job, but really you can't. You're not the sort of people we're looking for. We'd rather target, say, a mum with 2 or 3 kids who doesn't may have a formal education, but is very good at empathy, listening, understanding, lots of patience, etc. That's our target market. That's
interesting. So how do you find the right kind of people? How do you, you know, businesses will probably be facing difficulties recruiting as well. Yeah. So how do you, you know, get not only people in the door, but the right people in the door?
Recruitment is an issue. I mean, I won't deny that. And we specialise in rural economies. We do rural very well, and we find that we take these people from the community, and quite often we get their cousins, their uncles, their mums and dads, etc., coming to work with us on their recommendation. So we have a very stable workforce. We don't employ any agency staff in Moray at all, and that's testament to the staff that we have. Not easy. It's a challenge at times. There is churn now and again because some people leave for a variety of reasons. But what we're trying to do is look at people leaving school to say, look, you may not have the academic qualifications to go to university, but come and work with us. We'll help you get through the SVQ route. And if you want to become a nurse, go and have a nurse and come back. And that works. A lot of people like to remain in the community where they were brought up, whether it be Buckie, Keith, Aberlour, Granton, etc. It's the same. The culture is very similar.
So what would you say to someone then who's thinking of going into the care sector, not just in terms of a career, but just because, you know, people have probably heard negative things about it?
There's a lot of bad press about care homes, etc. But, you know, for every bad comment, there's about 5 good comments now. I think we took the decision a few years ago to be very open and transparent about what goes on in the care home. Not many people are aware of what the care home does now. And I think through our social media accounts, etc., we're putting a lot of PR stuff out there on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., to tell people what we do, and they can see their mum and dad, etc., enjoying what they do. So it is a calling, and I think people have to be worthy of it, and not everybody can do it, but those who can do it very well.
Again, you were talking about when you were young and you decided that you could do this, mm-hmm. and you knew where there were pockets of funding.
Yes.
So what's the trick to that?
Well, I was very fortunate to become Chief Executive of Moray Enterprise Trust and then latterly Aberdeen Enterprise Trust. And the trust movement was very much about helping people start in business, helping existing businesses expand, and then taking in inward investment. So there were areas that you knew where the money was. Now, sadly, Buckie, where we built our first home, wasn't regarded as economically or financially disadvantaged. So we had to sort of hone in, as it were, on the pockets that were available from Grampian region at the time, or the Moray Enterprise Fund, which is a private equity fund, etc. So, and just build it up that way.
And is there a trick to applying? You know, is there a trick to writing those grant applications or that kind of thing? I
think the bottom line is it's all about job creation. How many jobs would you hope to create by getting this funding? And if you could create more than 1 full-time job, 5 full-time jobs, etc., that's the key. The full-time jobs create disposable income. That disposable income is then spent in the community. It's spent with the butcher, the baker, the taxi service, the hairdresser, etc. So it's creating disposable income all the time. And that was the key to the economic development, to try and sustain the local economies where we operated.
And did you have big ambitions when you first started out? You know, do you think, like, I'm going to create the biggest care home provider in Moray?
No, not at all, not at all. We opened our first. In many ways, I was very keen to come back to the area. I worked in Aberdeen with Aberdeen Enterprise, and I just didn't like it at all. The area here is rich in natural resources. You know, it's lovely coastline, lovely beaches, lovely walks, skiing, hill walking, etc. So I was very keen within myself. I wanted to live here. But that said, I think I sort of sat down when I was with Aberdeen Enterprise and thought, well, how could I do this? And having had my experience with looking after my grandfather, I thought, yeah, we can put this together. So I spent a lot of time putting a care plan together. It was called Growing Old in Buckie, funnily enough. And then we looked for the funding, put the package together. When we started, I needed, because I didn't have a health background, I needed somebody with credibility. So we took in the local GPs as well. The local GP practice came in as a shareholder to the business. And we built our first one in 1993. And it worked very well. The sad thing is, after a year, the Care Commission, as it was then, took a very dim view of GPs having an interest in the care home to which they were referring. So they sold their stake back to me, and it's just been like that ever since. The key is very much knowing when to grow and when not to grow. So we opened in 1993. It was another 7 years before we looked at our first foray into the market to see what was there. And I was delighted to be chosen as the preferred contractor from Moray Council to take over 3 of their homes in Moray. So one in Buckie, one in Keith and one in Aberlour. Now that was a big step for us because effectively we were taking over a company which is 3 times bigger than ourselves and taking it from the public sector as well. And many people thought we could never do this. You know, the culture is different, you just can't do it. And you're effectively reducing their wages as well. And that's even more of a reason not to do it, but we did it. And we did it because I knew, and our staff, we worked in rural economies and I knew how it worked. And that was very important. People like to remain in the area where they work. And it's, you know, they don't have to work full time, they can work part time, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. You've got to be very mindful of family friendly connections as well.
It sounds like there's quite a unique mindset there. I mean, in the beginning, you know, you built a business around something you'd experienced, and then you took on, you know, you expanded threefold in one go and took on something people were telling you you shouldn't take on. Yeah. What do you think is behind that mindset?
And resilience. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there were many, many knocks along the way, and many times you thought, no, this is not going to happen, but you've just got to keep at it, stay focused. I often think it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, you've got to know the picture in the front before you can do the jigsaw puzzle. So as long as you know what the picture says, that's the key to this. It's about a vision of wanting to go. And I think once we'd taken over the 3 homes from Moray Council, there were other opportunities started to come our way, some good ones, some bad ones, and we just chose them very selectively.
And does it help that you have that belief in what you're doing?
I think any entrepreneur has to have the self-belief, because there's so many people out there who would be quite keen to knock you down and said, no, you can't do it, you know, so who do you think he is, etc. But you just got to keep going, you know, and as I say, I have a lot of self-belief in myself. I don't show it very often, actually, but it's this inner focus on moving forward. Even now, as we look at other developments, some of the members of our staff think, oh, no. You know, and I'm looking at our finance director over there, and she's one of them. But they're very, very good for us, and I know that that Murray's our heartland. We started in Moray, etc., and growing in the area, using the stable workforce that we've got here is an absolute winner. And on a day-to-day basis, I feel absolutely humbled by all the people that work with us, because they make me look good.
Where do you get your inspiration from in terms of the model of your care homes?
The first inspiration probably came from my grandfather. I mean, he had amazing stories from the First World War, wounded twice, went back, and I mean, some horrific experiences there, which he was very keen. And you know, a lot of people who come into care who are old have had amazing lives. You know, there was one particular lady in one of our homes. She wanted 2 rooms. She wanted a room to live in and a room to paint in. And we still got some of her paintings in the care home now. But she kept her own room with all the heating off. So you kind of open the door to let the heat in. And she maintained that a fridge, you know, slows down bacterial decay. So if she kept her room cool, it would mean that she could live longer, but it didn't. I'd have to say.
And didn't you have the first ever Vogue model?
That was her in 1923. It's the same one. Yeah, she was the first front page Vogue model in 1923. But in terms of inspiration, I used to watch Star Trek a lot, and James T. Kirk was a big inspiration in me. James Tiberius Kirk ran the USS Enterprise to boldly go when no man's gone before. Now, James was some guy. So James and Spock sorted out, it was a 45-minute episode, so every week they sorted out the world, and that was it. But then when James T. Kirk retired, Jean-Luc Picard came in, and this was Patrick Stewart, and oh God, he drank Earl Grey tea. And you're like, who drinks Earl Grey tea? Anyway, and he had meetings all the time, you know, he was typically French, and all of a sudden it became 2 episodes, you know, so he didn't sort the world, and he went into this group think, and there's nothing worse than group think. You know, you got all these people together, you never get a decision, you just don't know where you're going, so he did it. I always remember on the what do you call it, the bridge, James T. Kirk used to say to Scotty, okay, punch it. And then Jean-Luc Picard say, engage. You know, and you're like, typical French, just so laid back. But so that sort of thing, you know, I'm a just do it kind of guy. I'm a very big believer in a benevolent dictatorship. And we ask everybody in the room, ask everybody what they think, and then I decide.
Just get it done.
Get it done.
Also, in terms of inspiration, there is, you do have a very firm view of how you want your care homes to look and feel, don't you?
Yes.
So what is that, and where did that come from?
It's very important. My father was an architect, and I think I maybe probably inherited some of his skills in that respect. And I often want to think that anybody coming into care home, because it's a big decision, and you know, in many ways, we're taking their mum or their dad or their auntie into our family. And you want to come to somewhere where you want to go, and it's very important, I think, when you open the door and you go, wow. And I think once you get that first wow, you're halfway there. We'll come down and see what the accommodation's like, etc. And they're basically like 5-star hotels now. So you know, we have interior designers to do the whole thing from top to bottom. So it all blends in very well. It's very much like this actually. It's all done in a theme. The last one we built was in Fortrose on the Black Isle, and it's got a lovely cathedral entrance to it. One of our signatures is we put a chandelier at the front. It's a bit like a Stein. And the chandelier is on almost all the time. Huge chandelier. A lot of people think, God, it must be expensive, but it's not. The LEDs are very, very cheap to run.
And so why do that? Why? Because there was a time, wasn't there, when I think the thinking was that care homes should be full of the kind of furniture that people were used to from their own lifetimes and that kind of thing. And you would go into them and it all felt a bit foosty.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of cases it still does, but the market's changing. People are becoming far more discerning now. I think when we started, a lot of people wanted an ensuite in the room. Although I remember when we opened up a care home in Tain, with this farmer come in and says, "Why have you got a toilet in the bedroom?" I don't know. There is. But as time's moved on, people are now looking for CAD6 cabling. Now, it took me a while to work out what CAD6 cabling was, but it's digital cabling. A lot of people coming in now, they don't want to watch Homes Under the Hammer, etc. They want to watch box sets. They want to watch The Crown instead. So, you know, the changes in the market. So, yeah, so that's what we provide for most of our rooms now. But it's a place to live, and that's more important. It's all about well-being as well, not just... We have activities, we don't just offer entertainment for the sake of it. We try and stimulate the residents as well and try and do what they've done in their previous lives. And because we're operating in small rural economies, a lot of people know the individual and a lot of people come in and visit the individual. So it's like a home from home.
You were telling me as well, people don't want to walk in the door and see a Zimmer frame.
No, that's very important. We did a lot of research about 10 years ago on what care homes should look like. And we came to the conclusion that people didn't want to be reminded of their infirmity. So when you go into care home, you shouldn't see a Zimmer frame, you shouldn't see a hoist, and you shouldn't see a wheelchair. They're there, tucked away, but you shouldn't see them, because that's what people don't want to see. You know, and I think of my own mother, as I say, she's 95 now, going to a care home in Bucky. You know, she thought, this is not for me. This is not, you know, because she doesn't have a Zimmer frame or a wheelchair. She's got a stick, but it reminds them of a place where people go. You know, it should be tucked away.
It's an interesting lesson because you're in the care home sector, but nevertheless you've done important consumer research.
Yes.
You know, you've been a mystery shopper. Mm-hmm. You know, you've gone and visited other places for inspiration. You've done a lot of the things that you would do if you were, you know, competing as a high street store. Yeah. In some ways.
Yeah.
Do you think that's been important?
Absolutely vital, pivotal to our success. Looking at, I mean, make no mistake, I mean, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. All we want to do is put a rubber tyre in it. So we'll take ideas and reshape it into what we think will work for us. And in the rural economies where we operate, that's very important that we become integrated and anchored in those communities. And we've now started up what we call a Parklands Pathway Fund. So we're putting something back. We've set up this fund looking for local charities, etc. So we can help them invest. We've done this for years, but not on a formal basis. A lot of the people who work for us maybe are involved in the Cubs or the Scouts or a football team, and we help them into the community. But we've never wanted any form of publicity at all. I remember doing it once about 20 years ago. We gave, I think, a local football team 500 quid, and it was in the local paper. Well, the following week I must have had about 7 or 8 letters looking for funding as well, which we couldn't do at the time. So we always did it without any, that was the only condition. There was no publicity attached to this. It was all done anonymously. But now we're getting to a size that it's time to formalise this. So we've done it through the Parklands Pathway Fund.
And then one of the things that I thought would be interesting for people to hear from you about is, again, the care home sector. You're very much at the sharp end of things. You know, a little incident that happens in a care home can easily, you know, get blown out of proportion on social media. We're all in this world where, you know, the slightest thing can just escalate. Yeah. You know, do you have that happen, and how do you deal with that?
Bad news spreads like a virus around these local communities. It's incredible. But fortunately, because a lot of people work with us, they know us. And if somebody says something in the local pub, and they can say, well, actually, that's not right. You know, I remember way back in the day, somebody said in the pub that, oh, they only give them a banana for their tea. And you think, God, get it right. We peel it and cut it and put it in a plate. You know, it's a detail and get that right. You know, etc. So yeah, the community help us. They're our marketing tool as well to try and you know, dispel the rumours, etc. But you know, we work with people. Sometimes people get it wrong. Sometimes we don't always get it right. But I always think a measure of how good we are, how quickly we put it right, and that's important to us. It's important for the families as well.
The other thing that you're dealing with a lot of that I think would be useful for people to hear about is you're really at the sharp end when it comes to your customers. Yeah. It's an incredibly anxious time. Mm-hmm. You know, there's probably different opinions within the family about a relative going into the care home. There's the relative's own feelings about going into a care home. There's the preconceptions about, you know, what it's going to be like. How do you deal with that, and how do you train your staff to make that easier? We do a lot of training on that because it's very much, you could sort of say it's like the grieving process, because there's now a line in the sand. They can't drive anymore, they can't look after themselves at home, they're not eating well, and they may be forgetting things, so they need help and support. And I think it's a reassurance to the families that, you know, we can come into the home where they live, in the local communities, and we can care for them. I often say that, you know, when people come into the care home, the only thing that should change is their postcode. So, you know, we look after them so that, you know, the son and the daughter or the aunties and uncles can sleep well at night knowing that we're looking after them, we're caring for them, and they're safe. And, you know, and there's a lot of skills there, though, isn't it? There's incredible people skills that need to go on there. Mm. Can you teach that? We try. You know, we have various training programs, and we've got to nurture our people all the time. It's very important. Yes, we have a training program. They do SVQs, level 2, level 3, but they don't actually catch or embrace all the things we want to do. And we try and do a lot of training on site, etc., on the, you know, sort of on the job training to try and nurture people along with us. It's not easy, you know, but a lot of people. We do a lot of what we call stress and distress training. We do a lot of, you know, dealing with the grief that comes from putting people into the care home, and indeed when they come to pass. We find now that a lot of people are staying at home longer, which is quite a change in the market as far as we're concerned, and that's great. I often say, you know, the best bed's your own bed. Stay at home for as long as you can. But inevitably, something will happen at home. They fall, maybe sort of break their hip or something, and they can't manage at home, etc. So then they need to come into care. My own mother, for example, we discovered that she wasn't eating at all. She was just eating cheese and biscuits all the time. She'd been a widow for about 40 or 50 years, and then all of a sudden she started losing weight, and we noticed one or two changes in her behaviour. But the thing was, when we were there, she ate. But she said herself, you know, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, who cares? You know, if it's lunchtime or tea time, I'm just here.
So now she's in the care home, she's putting on weight and enjoying it. It's far more stimulated than she would have been staying at home. One of the things we find that if people do stay at home longer, there are issues about isolation, loneliness, depression, etc. And when they come into the care home, wow, it's a new world. Because there's a lot of entertainment, there's a lot of people coming and going, a lot of people they know, etc. And it's just what I call the extended family.
Calling all businesses. Inverness Chamber of Commerce Highland Business Week is back from the 23rd to the 27th of September. Keep up to date with announcements from the Inverness Chamber of Commerce by connecting with them on socials, signing up for their newsletter, The Pulse, to see the announcements first and keep informed about the launch on the 11th of June. Details on how to apply for Highland Business Awards will be announced within the June edition of the Executive magazine and across online channels.
Do you think then, expectations have changed about care homes and what they should provide?
Yeah, absolutely. Cynically, I think we offer very complex care. We're offering hospital care on the cheap because we get very complex cases now. They're not easy to deal with. There's one the other day, quite a young lady with learning disabilities at age 78. But to the other people with severe dementia that we've got to try and cope with. Sometimes we can't cope, and we seek a placement elsewhere because we've got to think of the other residents of the home as well at the same time. But each day is a new day. Each day is a new problem.
And do you think, in terms of the way that's supported, you said it's hospital care on the cheap.
Yeah.
Is that coming to a crunch point now?
Yes, I think, taking a point, there's been underfunding in the care sector for years, and I think we operate under what we call the National Care Home Contract, which is a contract negotiated between the Scottish Government and COSLA, but it's not enough. Over the past 2 years with the cost of living crisis, etc., inflation running up to 11%, food inflation at that time went up about 18%, and it's still about 7 or 8%. And every year we're only getting maybe 3% more or 4% more, and it just wasn't enough. Still isn't enough. And the sad thing is, over the last 2 years, 9 care homes that we know of in Highland have closed, and there were 2 in Moray. We've fortunately we're in the right place at the right time, and we took over those 2 homes in Moray from the administrator. But it's not easy, It's sometimes trying to work with 5 loaves and 3 fishes, trying to get the best results.
Yeah. So in a minute, I'll open it up to the floor. So have your questions ready. I wanted to ask you something I've asked everyone, which is always gets a really interesting answer, which is, if you were starting out again, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh wow, what advice would I give myself? I think you've got to know where you came from to know where you're going, if that makes sense. So from the skill base that I had, and I really had no idea that we would go to sort of 12 homes, etc. But as I evolved and I got into a sector, you become passionate about what you do, and other people become passionate as well, and it becomes infectious, and all of a sudden you build a momentum to go forward. So what I would say is be resilient, believe in yourself, because there are a lot of people out there who gives you a sort of smack in the mouth, as it were, as they say in Bucky. So yeah, just pick yourself up, dust yourself down and keep going.
And what's the biggest lesson you've learned from your business career?
Trust your gut. I think a lot of people tell you, no, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. No, it's not going to happen, etc. Yes, it will happen. Yes, we will do it. And that's what I've relied on. It can be a good trait and a bad trait, because if I sometimes get lost in the car, my wife gets very upset. I think, I know where I'm going. I have no idea where I'm going. Try to convince everybody around about I know, but you don't. And staying it with confidence, that's the key.
And also, it sounds to me like know your market.
I think so.
Yeah,
yes.
You really know your market, not only in terms of what you're providing, but your staff and the residents and the importance of home and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we recently took over 2 homes, one in Keith and one in Cullen, and I would just like to pay an enormous tribute to them, because we've turned those homes around in 6 months. It was incredible. They were 2 loss-making homes. The care was appalling, and we've created 2 really good homes with staff that we've recruited, and indeed our own staff. I think that's important as well. We offer a career progression. We say to a lot of people, come and join us and work through the ranks, and we've taken some of our own homegrown managers and put them in there, and it's testament to them, not me. we've had 4 values. Sorry, I just wanted to say, one of the things that people ask is, well, how do people know what you stand for? Well, in 1993, we created 4 values, and those 4 values are just as relevant today as they were in 1993. So that, everybody knows exactly what we stand for. It's very, very simple: trust and respect, professionalism, good place to work, and what's the 4th one? Working together. That's like I created them. I should know that. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to open up the floor for some questions. So if you could just raise your hand so that Sarah can bring the microphone over to you.
I have the first question from somebody who isn't here. The first question is from your granddaughter Rosie, who would like to ask, who has shown you kindness through your journey and your career?
Oh, wow, who's shown me kindness? Wow, gosh.
No one.
What?
And how old is Rosie?
4. Who showed me kindness? Well, a lot of people, they believed in, when we opened the first care home in Buckie, a lot of people were very sceptical. They thought it was a private hospital and the local hospital would close, but it wasn't. So it's those with the passion, the self-belief, to look at what we were doing and say, yeah, keep going, you're doing a good job. And I think once we took in our first residents, they accepted and were very grateful for the care we provided.
It's a great question. She can do my job.
Yeah.
Great question. Question to Sarah.
Ask the question. You mentioned your mum, Ronald, a number of times, and I'm lucky enough to know your mum quite well. What a lot of people in the room won't know is that she ran a very successful business herself on her own for a long time, and you helped her in the beginning before you obviously moved into the different sector. Was there something that you learnt in the retail sector for seeing your mother work so hard for so long and so many hours that you've taken into your new business sector?
Oh, good question. But my father died when I was only 4 months old. My father died at 29, so my mother was left with 3 kids under 2, and she came up. I was born in Dumfries, but moved up to Buckie when I was 4 months old, and she bought a newsagent, and you think, why the hell did you buy a newsagent? But that became our life for the next 30 years. It was a lifestyle business. 7 in the morning to 7 at night, 7 days a week. It was hard. And she was a very resilient person. And she just kept going, was very focused about what she wanted to do, and grew us up. We became part of the business. And I think I learned so many skills from her as well. And if nothing else, it gave me a work ethic. Getting up and delivering papers in the morning. I always remember I had a paper round down the yard down at Buckie, and it was in June, and the Moray Firth, there was a milky pond, and the sun was rising, and I thought, wow, look at that. And I'd love to turn around and say, somebody, did you see that? But there was nobody there. Everybody was sleeping, and it was just, I thought, wow, I feel so grateful and blessed to be able to watch that and work in an area that I wanted to live in. But she did it, my mother did it for 30 years before she retired. Did she enjoy it? A lot of the time, yes, but God, as you know, David, it's a hard slog.
It was interesting because when Ronald's mum retired, that was actually was a catalyst for us, because they split the support between the local people, and Ronald's mother sold out to John Menzies at that time, and the local people didn't want to support a multinational, so they all came round to our business in droves. So there's a lot of synergy in it, and I know how hard. I call Mrs. Taylor, I've called her Mrs. Taylor my entire life, and I still call her Mrs. Taylor, how hard Mrs. Taylor worked. So it's been really good for me to see how far Ron's come and how well he's done. And I know firsthand in Buckie the impact he's had on so many people's lives in terms of creating jobs and things. So that's why I was so interested to hear tonight. So.
Okay, thank you. You're going to expect this from me, but from Chamberland, I'd like to go back to the start of Chamberland in late 90s, early 2000s. Can you tell us a little bit about you getting involved and getting the wheels going on the Moray Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, well, I was delighted to say I was one of the founder members of the Moray Chamber. It became clear that, through Moray Enterprise Trust, and indeed, to a certain extent, Aberdeen Enterprise Trust, Moray Enterprise Trust is like a benign mafia. You know what I mean? So, I kid you not. And all the business people in the area became sort of board members of the Moray Enterprise Trust, and indeed Aberdeen Enterprise. I remember in Aberdeen, on the board, you had Sir Ian Wood, you had Stuart Milne, you had Douglas Craig from the Craig Group, all these big names, big personalities, and they all had big egos as well. And this is, part of the thing about group thinking. This never works because they all want to do their own thing at the same time. But it was quite clear there was a gap in the market in Moray to develop a membership organisation where people could come along and cross-fertilise and listen and speak, just like we are tonight, and listen to various people to see what they've done in their lives, etc., and the markets they've opened up, etc. So I'm delighted to say that Jim Johnston was the first chief executive we had. So we started out with Martin McClellan, as you know, and Bill Robertson, and created the chamber. And I'd like to pay testament to yourself, Sarah and Amy, for what you do now. You do a fantastic job. So well done, you. It's amazing where it's come from. Who would have thought that it is what it is now, but it is, thanks to you. Well done.
We've got any more? Two more questions? Yes, thank you.
Ron, that was fascinating to hear, so thanks for sharing your story. You mentioned well-being so many times, and I think everybody in the room is very conscious of that. What do you do yourself to maintain your well-being, given that it's been a stressful journey for you? What do you personally do?
Oh, no, there's a good question. I'd probably open a good bottle of wine. It's cheaper than therapy.
Do you know what? It's a great question. I was going back to the point about your mom. Mm-hmm. There's a book somewhere about, the 5 things that successful people do. One of them is getting up early. Yeah. Do you still get up early, having done the paper round all those years?
I do, but I hate it. I'm more of a night person. Right. I come alive. I have a lot of 4 a.m. moments. There's a thing at 4:25 a.m. called Hard Talk. Not many people watch it, but I watch it most morning. So it creates a lot of problems. With Eleanor, oh God, mate. So and that's when. So I tend to not get up early now, but stay awake later, and that's when the wheelies start. So what we could do, what we're doing, what we've done well, what have we not done well, reflecting what we've done. Because I think we all do it. We all go over conversations we've had during the day, good conversations that we should have said this, that we should have said that, what could I say differently, etc. But I think, taking your point, we all need to take time to look after our well-being. Some of the things that have happened during the day, you think, how could I change that? And I think I recognise now, my biggest passion is fishing. I fish a lot, and I can't remember how many phones I've dropped in the River Spey. And the thing is, the technology is getting so good now, you can pick it up and they're still there. Yeah.
I've got the microphone now. I would just like to say thank you, actually, because you were thanking the Chamber. I would like to say thank you. So I work for UHI Moray and also DYW Moray. But we operate the foundation apprenticeships for Moray Council pupils, for S5 and S6 pupils. And my foundation apprenticeship coordinator said today that since I was coming to listen to you, that I should say thank you to your staff for the contribution that they make to the young people's opportunities to actually benefit from being able to come into the care homes and actually achieve qualifications that are on the ground and really hands-on and useful for them. So thank you to you and all your staff for allowing that to happen. And just as testament really to that qualification and the work that some of your guys help us with, and other other organisations also help us, but she particularly wanted me to mention you tonight, is that Aberdeen University Medical School is now recognising the foundation apprenticeship in health and social care that you guys contribute to as one of the sciences that will allow access into study medicine. So that work that these young kids come along to do with you guys, and they don't always they don't always do what they should be doing, but the ones that do, my goodness, what a qualification you guys give the opportunity. So thank you on behalf of UHI Moray and also DYW for those opportunities.
Thank them. They're the ones that deliver it.
But it's also good, isn't it? That's the shift in mindset, seeing the care sector as important, within the whole faculty of medicine.
Yes.
Because there was a time when it would been seen as, it's not something we would be interested in.
For years, we just got crumbs from the table.
Yeah.
But now they can see that the very valuable work we provide and the training opportunities that we provide as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a holistic thing. It's, you know, we're always looking for people to come and join us, whatever age. You know, you can get some people now applying at mid-50s. Well, yeah, fill your boots, come on down. The experience that you would have that age is amazing.
Yeah. Question.
Yeah, so congratulations on your achievements so far, and thank you for this evening. One of the things that I've loved the most about your business since following it has been the storytelling about your grandfather and the fact that, you know, it was the care for your grandfather and you want to give that to everyone within your community of care homes. How do you communicate that passion that you have to your new starts when they're onboarding and keep it within your staff as well to ensure that that care is up at that standard you expect?
It gets more difficult as you get bigger to try and follow the message. But I think, as I say, you know, we're very much a values-driven company. We're very person-centred, and it's very important to us that the message comes from me all the way down. I don't get around the homes as much as I would like to, but that's the thing I enjoy most. Speaking to these residents who've led fantastic lives, it's a privilege and an honour, you know, to look after them in their final years, etc., as they come to us. But I think it's quite easy. We get good people. A lot of our people here today, we walk the talk, we walk the job all the time, and try to get the best care we can. We don't always get it right, but as I say, a measure of how good we are, how quickly we put it right.
Ron, you're clearly not about to slide into retirement, so what's next for you and Parkland Group?
Oh, to infinity and beyond. No, that's a good point. Well, we're actually building it in Inverness at the moment. This is quite a change for us because, as I say, we've concentrated on rural economies, which was a base population of about 10,000 people, but with a feeder population of about 40,000 people. Inverness is a different mould for us, and I think we have the brand reputation to go into Inverness and do very well. So this is a site that we started in 2020. Sadly, the construction company went into administration, went bust during the cost of living crisis. So we've now got back on track. And it is becoming more difficult to source all the money needed to invest in one of these homes because they're very expensive buildings now, and there's a lot of points about the previous design we had in 2020. We've now had to change in 2024 as regulations have changed with it as well. We're about to just move into Aberdeenshire as well, but again, that's in our heartland. That works with us very well. We had our head office in Buckie for years, because that's where we started. But we found that most of our growth areas were coming from the Highlands. And a lot of people, you know, look at the Highlands, but Highlands is actually bigger than Belgium. It's a huge area. And I think that's where we saw areas that we could move into very quickly and very easily and build the business. So we moved up to Granton to give us the access to the A9, so we can deliver. We can access all our homes within an hour, just over an hour now. And that's very, very important to us as well. So if we need to go out in the morning to visit the home very quickly, we do. I don't get out as much as I would like to now because you know what it's like. You're on Teams calls and this and that. You've got to do all this sort of paperwork and twist paper clips all day. It's just so monotonous. But other people are out there all the time, walking the talk and just spreading the word, spreading the gospel, according to Big Ron.
In the homes that you've taken over, is there a common thing that has gone wrong for them? You know, does it vary? Is it, you know, luck, an element of luck and bad luck? You know, you seem to be able to take them over and make a success of it. Do you know what's gone wrong?
We know exactly what's gone wrong. You know, I've been doing this now for 30 years. You know, we've taken over 5 homes from the local authorities now. We took over 3 homes in Moray in the year 2000, and we're also selected by Highland Council to take over 2 homes from them in 2012. So we had 5 homes coming from the public sector. Now, I find that a lot of people think that, oh, you know, they shouldn't be in the private sector. But my attitude as well, they were in the public sector and they were sort of tax spending. But we're profit making. But if we can do it more cost effectively and more efficiently than you could, why can't we do it? And all the homes we've taken over have now far better grades than the ones that they were or they had when they were run by the public sector. But taking your point about the 2 homes specifically that we took over, one in Keith and one in Cullen, they relied on a lot of agency staff. That's something we don't have. We don't have any agency staff at all in Moray, and it's a testament to the community, to the culture within the home, etc., that we can get enough staff to run the homes. We also pay well. It's very important to me that we pay far more than the market average. the big thing at the moment is the Scottish Government have introduced this £12 an hour rate for carers, and it starts from the 1st of April 2024. We did that last year, so we're already a year ahead of the curve, and that's important. You know, these people come in and they give of themselves, the compassion, the utter total dedication, the indelible mark that these people leave on the people we care for is truly humbling, and it's only right that we should pay as much as we can to these people, and we do.
You have mentioned Aberdeenshire and you've mentioned Highland, but we are beautifully sandwiched in the middle. What about the investment that you've got planned for Moray?
Yes, indeed. We have a site that we've had for a good number of years. I paid far too much for it when we bought it. We did it. We have a site in Elgin next to the 8 acres, and we're very keen to develop it over the next year. Money's been very important to us. It's where we started. And I think looking at the economy in Elgin, it could sustain another 40-bedded care home. And the one that we would want to build is it has everything that we would want. It has big wide corridors. Light and space are very important to our homes as well. We're trying to bring the outside in, so there's lots of glass, so people can see, what's happening in the outside world. Again, I can relate it to my mother. My mother had a small conservatory, and the things she used to talk about was the roses and the daffodils coming out. You think, I didn't quite get it, but I see it now. These things are important to them, so it's important that we put as much glass in our care homes. So, the technology is there, they're very well insulated, they're very warm, etc. And people can sit there and watch the world go by. People are very sociable animals as well. They like to see people. People watch people all the time. I remember we had a care home in Buckie, a small one in the square. And this is interesting. It was run by a charity called Abbeyfield. And because it's a charity, nobody wanted to go in it. And all of a sudden, a Hanover Housing Association project started up. And people had to pay to go into Hanover, but they went into Hanover because they were too proud to go into the one that was free, as it were. It was really quite amazing, quite humbling, even though the care was very good. Anyway, so we took over this home in Buckie in the square. And the big thing in the square in a Saturday in Buckie with the number of blue lights, it was just a fire pit. So all these ladies used to have their tea, and it was like a spectator sport. Stay in the window until after midnight and to watch the fights break out, the pubs come out, and the police and the ambulance. It was incredible. That's all they wanted to do, was see what was happening.
And just to follow on from that, touching on that sort of intergenerational aspect, as you know, in Moray we have a big issue with childcare. I think people are fed up me harping on about that. And I think with one of your Inverness homes, you have got that interaction with the young and the old. And tell us about that, because I think that's quite special. Yes,
and people under 4 have no filter. People over 75 have no filter. So you put them together, and it's a tremendous combination. I remember sitting in Granton about a year ago, and there was this 4-year-old girl, and she was just spreading some toast. And she turned to the lady next to her, and she spread the toast and gave it to her. Nothing was said, but she knew that the old lady wanted the toast, and she gave it to her. And I thought, you're only 4, how did you know that, etc. So these sort of connections are very important. And I think it's good for kids as well to see, people are old, and as indeed we're all going to die at some point, and how we deal with the aging process, is very important. So to get these people in under 4, to make them recognise that they're just normal people, same as everybody else, they're just a wee bit slower than you or I.
I remember a similar story to that, and it was a young child and had been in Netherha, and they came into the shop to us and they said they'd been speaking to the old people, but they didn't know what all those brown spots were on their hands. When you get older and you get that marks in the hands, and that's the young kids. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ron. It's been really fascinating to talk to you. And thank you to Sarah and Amy, where is she, for organising this entire series of conversations that have really spread around the business community, and we've heard from lots and lots of different voices. And thank you to Johnson's and all our hosts that have made this possible. But most of all,
we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Executive Podcast. You can sign up for our free newsletter, The Memo, in the description. We partner with stakeholders to keep you up to date with everything that is happening across all sectors within the North of Scotland economy.